You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hey, friends. Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Mama Work It podcast. As always, I am so grateful and so glad that you're here. My name is Marissa Lonick. I am the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of mom life, work life, wife life, fill in the blank life. And I am also your host. In case you're new around here, I am a working mama of 4 kiddos. They are now 11, 7, and 5. We just went through birthday season here in our house. So we've got new ages, new stages, and I'm riding the wave in this season of motherhood. So I'm excited about today's topic, and I think you're excited about today's topic because recently I went on my IG and I asked you guys if you felt like this would be a topic that would, benefit you or benefit friends or just other mamas in your life. And I had such an influx of people who were like, yes, please, I need this topic. And so if that was you, yay, today's the day. It's finally here. And we are talking all about moving tips. So if you are someone who has been thinking of moving, is ready to move, is in the midst of a move, has moved, and will probably move again, which I think at some point we all do move. But if you are thinking about this, experiencing this, going to experience this in the near future, then hopefully this episode is going to deliver on tips, tricks, things that are going to make this season a lot less stressful and chaotic and hopefully a lot more zen for you. Because let's get real, moving in itself is a very stressful time in a lot of people's lives, but it can be kind of a level up when you are doing this now as a mom with kids in the mix here. So I actually, when I asked my IG community about this topic, I then followed up and asked for tips. So you're going to hear some tips, not just from me, but from all you experts out there who have moved before with kids. So it's going to be really juicy, really good. And one thing that I got a request for, not necessarily a tip, but a request for, so before we dive into the topic more in depth, I got this request for how do you actually know when it's time to move? What are the deciding factors? How do people make this big decision? Because it is a really big decision. And no matter how far you're moving, it's a change in your home environment. And that's a really, really big deal. So I thought about this a little bit more because we have moved several times in our lifetime as a family to date. I moved a lot, even growing up and into adulthood. So I really gave this some thought, having had many move experiences. And this is kind of the list I came up with, right? There are a lot of reasons why people move. And these are the things that came to mind for me. Like first and foremost, jobs. Jobs make people move all the time. Then there is quality of life, maybe like different environment, different cost of living, like weather, all of those things. Some people move to be closer to family. Maybe they've lived far away from family, and now, especially in a season of parenthood, they want to be closer to their families. And the other thought I had was maybe just needing a change, like changing environments. If you need a change, that's a pretty significant way to create a change. So a move could be a reason for that. And there are probably, when you think about moving, if you're on the fence about this, there are probably a million reasons that you would want to stay, like comfy, cozy, literally at home. So you're probably feeling, if you're in this stage of decision making, you're probably feeling a push and a pull factor in this decision. So I would recommend a pro con list. Like, go ahead, dive deep, analyze the data, right? I'm very logical on one hand, but I'm also an intuitive coach, and I lean into the subconscious. I lean into my spirituality a lot when I make big life decisions. So I would say definitely analyze the logic, but tap into that inner wisdom, that inner voice as well, because while this big decision of moving needs to make logical sense, it also needs to make emotional sense. I want you to think back to like when you were dating. Maybe you dated someone who looked really good on paper, but you met this person and then you didn't necessarily feel a connection. You didn't feel a spark. So you probably wouldn't choose that person to spend your life with. It's just got to feel right, not just look right on paper, right? So I would say it's not a decision to make lightly. It also needs to be looked at from a few different angles. And remember, ultimately, it is always your choice. It is always your choice. Like, I cannot think of a situation where you don't have autonomy to make the final decision in the end when it comes to a move. Even if it's a job, you can choose not to take it. Even if it's to be closer to family, you can choose to live far away. Even if it's quality of life related, well, you can probably find like other creative solutions to get better quality of life where you're at if you really want to. If you really want to think outside the box, it might not be the choice you want to make, but it could be. So unless you're like essentially being evicted by a landlord, you do have some empowerment in this choice. And I'm not saying this choice is easy. Like, this is probably, moving has probably been up there with some of the hardest decisions we as a family have ever made, I have ever made. But there's so much empowerment knowing you ultimately get to be in control of that decision. And so I want to arm you with that before we really dive into today's like tips and tricks. All right. So as I mentioned, I have moved a lot as a kid, as an adult. No, my family wasn't in the military. We just did. We moved overseas, moved to several different homes, moved around. And now as an adult, like we've also moved quite a bit as, you know, a couple, as a family. Back in 2016, we moved cross country with 2 kids. We've moved with 4 kids. And was it a little harder? Yeah, probably. More people, more stuff, more of a community we'd built, more affiliations that we'd kind of developed over the years with school, sports, hobbies, interests. Like there was more to manage in our last move. And our last move was also the longest time we'd ever spent in our previous home as a family. So there was a lot of emotion with that too. So life takes you new places. We've moved before, we've moved many times. And so what I want to do is I want to give you some tips, but I'm going to kind of categorize them into different buckets. I'm going to give you some practical tips because God knows we all need a life hack every now and then. I'm going to give you some emotional tips because these are the things I think we don't always think about when it comes to a major decision like this. We're just kind of busy checking the boxes of things to do, and we don't think about like our inner feelings of what's happening with all this massive change. And I want to give you some coping tips of how to kind of manage that change as well once you've had it happen. So all the tips. All right. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's dive in. Remember what I said. I've got my tips and I've also got tips that came through from some great IG stuff that happened in that world. So thank you. Thank you. If you gave a tip, I couldn't share all the tips, but I'm sharing some of them. So thank you. All right. So let's start with the practical today. Number 1 on the practical list of tips for moving is I want you to use this move opportunity as a get to moment versus a have to moment in your life. What do I mean by that? I mean, this is sort of like you could look at this as a glass half full, glass half empty sort of season, experience, challenge, however you want to call it in your life. Okay. You could look at this as like, oh, I have to move. My job is moving me. Or you could be like, I get to move. I get to experience a new place. I get to, do all these new things, move into a new house, whatever it is. Get to versus have to mindset is going to make this move feel a lot more exciting and optimistic, even though it still is hard. I recognize that. There are also some things like you want to consider on the get to side of the house that like maybe you haven't. Moves always help you declutter and kind of simplify your life, right? Because you're not going to move a bunch of junk in the back of your closet. You're not going to move a bunch of stuff that you haven't necessarily used in 5 years. You're going to have that opportunity to really declutter, to donate, to diminish the amount of stuff that you have. And I don't know about you, but anytime I do a massive, like deep dive decluttering in my home, I feel so good. Like this experience always helps me get to a place where I feel lighter, I feel cleaner, I feel less chaotic. And so a move is a really great like motivator to get you to declutter, donate, diminish all the stuff you have, and really just get to a space of feeling cleaner, less congested, and just having more kind of freedom in that area of your life. So that is practical tip number one. Practical tip number two is friends, if you can, if you have the luxury of some time here, and most people do, like most people don't get told on a Monday that they're moving on Friday, although, yes, I'm sure that does happen. But for the most part, hopefully that's not the case for you. If you have the luxury of time, please do yourself a favor and start early. Don't procrastinate on this, okay? You probably know in advance about your move, so do not wait until the last minute to start getting ready for it. Now, I recognize procrastination is a coping mechanism for a lot of people, especially when they feel overwhelmed, right? They get analysis paralysis, they just freeze. And instead of like diving deep and doing all the things, they kind of freeze up and they do nothing. Trust me, I've been there, okay? And I recognize that you probably are feeling overwhelmed and inundated by all the things associated with this change, and that can feel very daunting. And let's layer in, like, if you are the momager at home, like the person managing lots of things in your home, you are probably spearheading a lot of this move as well, like all the logistics associated with it. So I want to validate the fact that yes, this can feel very overwhelming and paralyzing. But I also want to remind you that even taking small action, intentional action day in and day out is going to help minimize that feeling of overwhelm. So do yourself a favor, like dive in. You don't have to go like right in and dive in like with both feet, right? You can just take small steps day in and day out, but give yourself time, space if you have that luxury, because I bet your life already feels super busy and super full. And just the more you can spread these tasks out and tackle them one step at a time, the better this experience is hopefully going to go for you. And hopefully you're going to feel throughout the process. All right. Tip number 3 on the practical side is one of my favorite tips. I use this a lot in life, whether I'm moving or whether I'm not, but it definitely helps, is make a list, honestly. Like I imagine, as when I have moved in the past, you've got things that pop into your head all the time telling you like, don't forget this, or make sure you do that, or call this person, or contact that person, or whatever it is, or cancel this. Like, especially during a move, there's so many things, so many moving parts. Start a list, make a list. When things wake you up at night and stress you out, simply add it to your list. So you can use your notes app on your phone. You can literally have like a pen and paper on your night table, or just carry it, walk around with it in your purse. You can, have a Google sheet that you keep track of, whatever. I don't care what avenue you go with this list, but a list, okay? Because you can't keep it all up here. And this list should include tasks you need to get done, like canceling utilities, signing up for new utilities, registering for school, for sports. It could even just be like anything and everything that comes up, like don't forget to call and say goodbye to that person, because like I would feel really bad if I didn't do that, right? Or don't forget to, email this person or that person, whatever it is. Add it to your list. Whatever pops into your mind, and is stressing you out or making you feel like you cannot find peace and calm, take it from here, from your head, put it there on the list, and just know that it will get done. And that's like a safe space for it to get done. So making a list, really, really important. All right. Number 4 on our practical tips for moving is delegate, get some support. Okay. Whether that is like childcare support, friends who can help you pack. Packing is a really draining exercise, you guys. And it's not just because it's very labor intensive of like heavy lifting or, moving boxes around or whatever it is. It's because it's filled with decisions. Do we keep this? Do we sell this? Do we donate this? Will I miss this if I get rid of it? Honestly, having another person there just to help you with some of that decision fatigue that you will likely experience when you are packing up is a lifesaver. So do not be afraid to tap into support. You're probably not even just packing and making these decisions just for you. I imagine if you are a mama, you are doing this for other people in your home. And that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot if you are doing it solo and for just for yourself. Imagine if you're doing it for now other people. So delegate, get support, whether that means someone comes in and helps you do this or whether you actually just hire movers to do the packing for you. Some people do that. Up to you, whatever your preference, your budget allows, but do not be afraid to call in for reinforcements here. Because it is going to help you tremendously. Again, not just on the literal heavy lifting, but the heavy lifting that is going on in your head. All right, we have a great tip on the practical side that came through on IG from my friend Michelle Perda. She is over at the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. She recently had a big move with her family, and this is it. She said, have a week 1 box with you with all the stuff you're going to need, like before maybe your furniture or your big stuff arrives potentially. So maybe this has like air mattresses, clothes, towels, things for the kids to do before they get all their toys, whatever you will need during 1 week, the first week of moving before all your stuff is either there or even just unpacked, because that's a feat in itself. Label it week 1 box, and maybe that's the first box you unpack when you get there. Or maybe, if you're going separately from the movers, that's a box you bring with you on the drive or the way there. All right. Another pro tip from Michelle is to label each box by number and then on a separate paper or spreadsheet, write what's in there. So rather than label the box of all the things inside, just put a number on it and then track it all separately. This is a great tip. I didn't even think to do this. I was trying to label my boxes with all the things inside. And, there's definitely things I forgot to say that are in there. And I'm like, where did that end up? Or where does that go? But I love that tip, Michelle. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those. And you guys definitely give her podcast a listen if you haven't already. I've had the honor of being a guest on Michelle's podcast a few times. She is just so awesome. Her topics are great. Her vibe is so authentic. She does not sugarcoat. She says it like it is. I know I appreciate that. So give her show a listen if you haven't already, the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. All right, we're diving in now to some emotional stuff here. Are you ready? I don't know. I don't always want to dive into emotion, but we're doing it. So my 5th tip here, and now we're on the emotional side, is moving is a very busy time in your life. Okay, like it is. And you may already feel like your life is like at the busy capacity. And now if you add in a move, it might push you over the edge a little bit. Okay. But you want to make sure you make time to really enjoy your current home or your current environment or, your current friends before you leave. Right? It is so essential to like really enjoy that stuff before it's not something that you're going to have access to regularly anymore, especially if you're moving far away. So maybe schedule a get together or a party. You don't have to host it. You could do this at, a brewery or a park or a restaurant, whatever's closest to you, whatever feels right. You also maybe want to like visit your favorite coffee shop, maybe for the last time in a while, or like do the things that bring you joy before you go. Like take that walk on that trail or that path that you really love, at sunset or whatever it is. Like, I know you're probably feeling so tired, so stressed, so busy. And like these things are things you can like barely even think about, let alone include in your schedule during a move time. But you will not regret the fact that you push those other things aside, which they're going to get done. They have to get done to really create time and space for these joyful events, get-togethers, whatever they look like to you. So that's my fifth tip, and it's an emotional one. My sixth tip, also an emotional one here, is slow down. So it can feel like a whirlwind, but you and probably those around you need to chill. Okay. Like maybe you need to actually slow down so you can actually feel your feels. Sometimes we're so busy, we like push down all the emotion and we just kind of stay busy to either not feel it because it's really hard to feel it or not feel it just because we got other stuff to do. And so slowing down allows us to like let those emotions breathe and be free and happen. And feeling your feels is really important. Now, if your kids are old enough to know what's going on, they also might need like your full attention and emotional support during this big transition. And if you're so caught up in the whirlwind of what's going on, like you're not even going to notice that they might need you in those moments if you haven't slowed down. So take some deep breaths, practice some mindfulness, like block your calendar to even just like talk to your kid or take a walk with your kid or take a walk with yourself and just get there, like slow down and allow yourself to experience what you need to feel during this major transition. All right, I have another pro tip from one of our IG followers. This one is from Sue Ellen. She is a mama friend that I know from California, and I know she is a regular listener to the show. Shout out to Sue. Thank you. Thank you. She had some great advice to share here. She said, get out and walk around your new neighborhood to meet the neighbors and make friends. Like, friends, there for sure going to be a million things inside your new home to do once you get there. But let me tell you something, you're going to feel very alone once all that busyness of settling in has worn off if you haven't made the effort to make some connections in your new local space. So I love this advice. This is so great. Because, you might think this is very practical, like I'm going to go take a walk and make friends. And yes, it is, but it's also filling like an emotional void that you may feel once you are kind of unpacked and settled. Like you want to know that you have like made some friendly faces outside your home, right? So great advice. Thank you. Sue also said, and I love this tip too, is be patient with the kids. And I think a reminder about patience is so important, like whether you're moving or not. I know I could use like a daily reminder of this day in and day out, but especially during a stressful time like this one, I think just remembering to practice patience with the kids, but also with yourself is so crucial. So thank you so much, Sue Ellen. We appreciate you. I'm sending you a big hug from afar. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to our final tip here. This is more about coping. All right. This is about the coping stuff. Like once you've gone to your new location, your new home, you may feel a little bit of like grief, honestly. So I personally love change. Like I think change is good. And yet change can still feel very hard and it can hit you very hard no matter how open-minded you are to it. So I want to remind you, give yourself grace, understanding, compassion. If you're feeling like the change of a move is hitting you hard, like be a little kinder to yourself, be a little bit more empathetic to yourself, to your kids, just in general. Change is not easy. I don't care how open-minded you are to change, it can feel really, really hard. And knowing that it may be hard and it's normal for it to feel hard, that's going to allow you to be able to work through that. So if you need support during a big change like moving, do not be afraid to get it. Go to therapy, talk to friends, talk to family, be vulnerable. I know how hard that is. I know I struggle a lot with vulnerability, which is kind of funny because I'm literally putting together a whole book on vulnerability right now. But I want you to know that choosing to lean into that rather than hide away from it, that is a really powerful gift that you can give yourself, especially when going through a major life change like moving. All right. So, friends, these are our tips today when it comes to moving. I'm curious if you've ever moved and if you have a tip that you want to share that we did not cover. I'm sure there are so many more, and we'd love to hear it. So DM me on IG, let mama work it, send me an email, let us know, or put it in the comments of like the reviews of the show. Feel free to share it on there, whatever you think. And if you found it helpful, please give us a 5-star rating. We would love to know how this episode was for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for listening as always. I will see you next time, mama. And until then, keep on working it. You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.